Green Bay Packers, despite going 11-6 in 2024, by a lot of people's accounts, took a step back. So with a quiet offseason and an interesting draft, can a 2025 Joey Love-led Packers get back on track? Let's get into it. A lot of people had hopes for the Green Bay Packers in 2024. A lot of people in the analysts-led media and different outlets and things of that nature, Packers media in tow, all had the Packers winning the division and possibly making a Super Bowl run based upon their weaponry, their coaching, their quarterback play, you name it. They had all things lined up to have a very successful season. Now, like I said in the intro, they went 11-6, so it wasn't a complete and utter failure, but they definitely underachieved from what people had predicted them to do in 2024. Myriad of things could play into that. Injury to Jordan Love early in the season. He was often injured. I think he injured himself at least twice and missed games throughout the season. So he really stymied his play. They really leaned on the run game more so because of his inconsistencies and things of that nature. So with them getting their offseason going, free agency was pretty quiet. The draft was interesting. So we're going to break all that down and exactly what the Green Bay Packers are going to look like in 2025 in our preseason preview as we wrap up the AFC North. Now, I was one that had my chips all in on the Jordan Love train. I thought he was going to be the it factor quarterback. He was going to be the sleeper in fantasy and a lot of other areas. I put my chips all into drafting him in fantasy and things of that nature, and it really didn't pan out well for me. And most people that had the same sentiment, felt the same wrath, right? So, Jordan Love had a stagnant season. I mean, let's just be honest about this situation. And, everybody had on his radar that it was time for him. He was at that moment in that inflection point in his career that he was going to ascend and hit that higher tier and be a Pro Bowl level quarterback. And we just really didn't see it. Like I said, it was a myriad of things that played into it. The O-line play was inconsistent. The running game was, trying to find his footing with Josh Jacobs being new. Jordan Love being in and out of the lineup. A lot of things factored into it. It's football, it's the NFL. But the expectations people have for 2024 really didn't pan out. So can they bounce back and rebound and get back to their winning ways and what they expect from themselves in 2025? So let's talk about their offseason, and let's get into it real quick. So starting off with their free agency, now the Packers have not been an organization that's been really flashy in my time covering the NFL, especially. This organization, this regime, even dating back to the Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre days, haven't been real, gung ho about getting free agents. They kind of sign who they want to sign and guys who they feel like will fit their systems and work out well in Wisconsin and things of that nature. So wasn't a whole lot to report in regards to their free agency. Now, it did have some turnover on the O-line, and we're going to address that as being one of those keys to the season in 2025. But they did go out and get Aaron Banks, a guard from San Francisco. Gave him a 4-year deal, $77 million, which I think was much needed in trying to repair what that O-line has looked like from 2 to 3 years ago when it was playing like an elite line. You had your Bakhtiaris and your Corey Linsleys and your Josh Myers. All those guys are gone. So when you have turnover in less continuity, you got to find ways to correct it fast, because if you don't have any O-line play, and that's what the Packers typically have been known for the last several years, you don't have anything. So it starts up front. You got to get the O-line right, and they went out and got a left guard by the name of Aaron Banks that should solidify that position. It should be a mainstay for the next 4 years there, so I like that move. They went out and got Nate Hobbs, a really good slot corner from the Raiders. I know him personally. He's been a thorn in the Chargers side for a good long while, so he's now over in Green Bay. Signed Mecole Hardman to a 1-year deal. As Isaiah Simmons is a depth piece, another linebacker for the defense. Resigned a kicker. Resigned Isaiah McDuffie, and they released Jair Alexander as of late. That was brand new news, and he's now with the Ravens. So again, wasn't a whole lot of sexiness going on with the offseason, but they did address a couple of key needs. They got some depth at at wide receiver. They went out and got themselves a good lineman and a good corner. So I think they kind of smell the air when they feel like they were going to lose Jair Alexander and Eric Stokes in free agency. So they did address that in at least in one aspect of it, and got out in the market and got themselves a corner in the free agency market. So again, not a whole lot to report, but it was definitely something of noteworthiness to say they did. Their top two signings were big needs for the roster for 2025. So yeah. Then we turn over to the draft. And the draft was even more interesting. They did one thing they haven't done in quite some time, maybe not ever. I know it's been a long, long time, but since they've drafted a wide receiver in the first round, but they went out and did it. And I think it was one of those situations where he kind of fell in their lap. I didn't think Matthew Golden was going to fall that far in the draft. I really didn't. Just to see how things shook out in the first round, I didn't think Matthew Golden was going to be there. And maybe they didn't either at 23. But he was the best wide receiver on the board at 23, and they took him. Definitely a great pickup. And I would tell you right now, and I'm going to give you a quick hot take, that Matthew Golden is going to be a bona fide superstar in this league real quick. I love his skill set. He kind of gives me the Jamar Chase kind of vibe. His size, his stature, his speed, his route running. He gives me a lot to look forward to in regards to what he can do on the field. And I would argue that he's going to be their number one receiver pretty quickly. Based on who they have in the room, Christian Watson's often injured. Romeo Dobbs really hadn't ascended to the number one. He's more of an extra receiver. On the outside, Matthew Golden can play all three positions. You got your Jaden Reed and Dontavius Wicks are more slot guys. So yeah, I would argue that Matthew Golden is going to come right in, as long as he stays healthy and be the number one target for Jordan Love in 2025. So look out for that. Then they went out and got a tackle, Anthony Belton, in the second round. Now, there was other names out there at that pick they could have maybe gotten for my money, but this is what the Packers do. They always get guys that seem obscure, and they develop them well. So I'm not going to write off Anthony Belton as being, a tackle for this team, either left or right. I mean, they got to slate him and maybe playing left tackle at this moment. I would argue that if they develop him like they have done in the past with all the other linemen that didn't seem have any notoriety coming out of college, and they somehow, some way, they flourish in the system, and they end up being Pro Bowlers in certain cases. So look out for Anthony Belton. If they develop him right out of North Carolina State, he's going to be a player as well. Now, what they did in the third round, I absolutely positively love. And I call this man the weapon. Savion Williams from TCU. Now, I always argue about the TCU wide receivers. Now, wish the Chargers had Savion versus another one, but I'm not going to argue that. I know I had to throw a little shade there, but it is what it is. But Savion is a weapon. He is 6'4", 6'5", maybe 225 pounds, and he is a Swiss Army knife. I mean, we've seen this guy play slot, play outside, play running back, play wildcat quarterback. If Matt LaFleur does what I think he can do with Savion Williams, look out for him being a sneaky weapon for this offense in 2025. I'm here to tell you that people are sleeping on the skill set of Savion Williams. He can do it all. If you want to double fact check this for me, go to YouTube and just type in Savion Williams highlight clips. It's definitely something to see. He is a weapon. You can use him in a myriad of ways. It's almost like having Cordero Patterson, and who was the other guy, the Swiss Army knife, that I want to say, like Tavon Austin, like that kind of guy. Deebo Samuels as well. Like having Deebo Samuels and Cordell Stewart wrapped into one. He's a big physical receiver, but he has speed. He runs a 4.4. And that's nothing to sneeze at his size. So I think Savion Williams is going to be a player for the Packers. Now, going back to, other players that had kind of obscure, fourth rounder pick, Barron Sorrell, who they needed the edge rusher because they traded Preston Smith away to go along with Rashad Gary. So again, they draft guys and they seem obscure, but they almost always work out for the Packers. So I'm going to hold my breath on that pick, but he should be a contributor in 2025 for them. Then when I got another edge in Colin Oliver in the fifth round, another obscure pick, but we'll hold our breath and wait and see. Warren Britson in the sixth, Michael Robinson, a cornerback, in the seventh, and John Williams, another tackle from Cincinnati, in the seventh as well. So again, outside of Savion and Matthew Golden, I'm kind of waited with bated breath to see these Packers draft picks work out. But they have in the past, so maybe they will in the future. But we'll just have to wait and see. But I promise you that you're going to hear the names Matthew Golden and Savion Williams on Sundays. That's my personal opinion. So I do like those picks. So get into their coaching staff. They didn't change anything significant from the coaching staff. Matt LaFleur is still there. He's still a primary play caller and a head coach. The coordinators are still the same for the most part. Nothing significant to change, so which bodes well for Jordan Love and company because you don't have any turnover, any playbooks to learn, anything terminology wise new to learn. So that should help ascend them and get them on the right track earlier in the season, and don't have to worry about anything from a learning curve perspective. So I do like that. So getting into that schedule now, they're playing in the NFC North. Excuse me, they're playing in the NFC North. So it's no cakewalks, no breaks. So there's 6 games in the division are going to be tough. And I do believe they play the NFC North East as well. So they got the East on the schedule, and they got their own division to play. So that's already rough sledding to begin with. So they open up the gate with the Lions and the Commanders. Hey, those are 2 tough games. That's all I can say. But they're both at home. They got the Browns, which should be a win, hopefully for them. Then they got the Cowboys away in Dallas as well, and they get an early bye week, which sucks for most teams. Early bye week sucks, but it is what it is. You got to play the schedule. Then they come back with the Bengals, and Bengals are a wild card. We don't know what their defense will look like, so that they should win that game, but we'll see. Cardinals, it should be another win. The Steelers are in flux. We don't know. Panthers are building, not sure. Then they get the Super Bowl champions in week 10. Should be the Giants. Then they got the Vikings. I would argue they at least split with the Vikings. I like that. Maybe they split with the Lions, split with the Bears. The Broncos going to be a tough one. The Broncos going to be good this year. I'm going to preface it by saying that. They come back with the Bears, and they got the Ravens in week 17 and the Vikings in week 18. So it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a tough one. I'm looking at 8, 9, maybe 10 wins, unless, things, drastically change. But I'm definitely thinking that, if they play ball and they do things the right way, they should get 8, 9, maybe 10 wins out of this on the low end. But again, you got to play the football games. So we'll see how things go. So giving my overall take in regards to the offseason grade, it's a wait and see with the draft picks, but the offseason, the free agencies, So I give him a C plus, CC plus from a grade perspective. And like I said, I think 8 wins, 9 wins, maybe 10, depending on how things break and who plays well, at that moment when they play them. Because there's some wild cards in there, who the Panthers are going to do, what the Giants are going to look like, what the Steelers are going to look like, what the Vikings are even going to look like. So there's some wild cards in there. We don't know exactly how things go, but I think the overall 8, 9, maybe some wins, they get to 10, they should make the playoffs. So we'll see how things go. But I mean, overall, holistically, I think they have to, focus on a few things. You have to get Jordan Love back on track. And I think they have some of the best weapons in the league between Christian Watson, if he stays healthy, Romeo Doubs, Matthew Golden, Savion Williams, Jaden Reed, Dontavius Wicks. They got 5 good receivers, 2 good tight ends, Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft. They got the weapons. The only question mark is the O-line. Can the O-line hold up and protect Jordan Love and get on the run game, get Josh Jacobs running downhill and make them a good balanced offense? That's one. And then on the defensive side, you have to be able to figure out what the secondary is going to do. Matt LaFleur said he has faith in Keyshawn Nixon, Matt Hobbs, and Carrington Valentine, and that's in lieu of what Jair Alexander and Eric Stokes did last year. So can the secondary hold up, and can they have success with the cornerbacks in house? That's a question mark too. So can they cover, and can they run block and pass block, and they play good O-line play in 2025 will be the question. That's going to be the success of the team. If they can get those things done, they're going to win games. If they struggle there, they're likely going to be losing in 2025. So we'll see. But yeah, so that's my wrap up for the Packers, man. Let me know in the comments how you feel about this particular, I guess you can say, iteration of the Green Bay Packers in 2025. Hit up the Hit Squad on socials, any Commanders, Chiefs, the Chargers questions you have, hit them up. If you're looking for the Lockdown Defense Sports Network, please check us out on all social platforms. Like, comment, subscribe as always to the channel. Everybody know we're booming out there in the YouTube streets. And as always, man, we'll be back next week with another preview of another division. We're doing the AFC North next week, so check that out. And always, like I say, hit that subscribe button. Everybody know we're doing things big in the YouTube algorithm, man. And you got to do one thing and one thing well. You got to step up and lock it down.